to Open Heavens Convocation, 3 days of power, worship and impartation, from Tuesday 15th to Thursday 18th April. Join Apostle David Duma and worship minister Sylvia Akoth at the Apostolic House, Kenya Cinema Plaza, Moi Avenue, Nairobi. Lunch hour sessions run from 12:45 to 2 p.m. and evening sessions from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And don't miss the special Good Friday service on April 18th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Our theme scripture is 1 John chapter 5 verse 4. This is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. Don't miss this moment. Open Heaven's Convocation, where heaven meets you.
Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
I keep reminding you, every time you see me here early in the morning in Elevate TV, it is a Tuesday morning, unless otherwise. When we gather in Elevate TV on Tuesday morning, we gather to talk on nothing else but leadership. Always a blessing to sit behind this camera, talk to you as you talk to me. Remember, the way to talk to me is to go to that YouTube account of, Elevate TV account, and then also Facebook, and write to me, asking a question. I'll be amplifying them, asking on your behalf. Of course, I don't answer any question. My work is to ask it on your behalf. One of the things that make this show, our show, me and you, is when you write back, when you ask that question, when you comment. Remember, I've always said, if you don't come with a book, you have a place to type there. Write your names there, your notes there. Let me hear what you are hearing. Let me hear what your thoughts are. Anytime I come here, I have always insisted, and I want you to know, I don't just bring anyone. I bring someone who is doing this work. As I've always insisted, it's not an amateur general. No, I bring someone who is in leadership, who is leading. The person that I have today is not new. He was here one time, and believe you me, the kind of wisdom it is that time. So many people have called me asking, where did this man go? We talked about honor with him, and I tell you the truth, the kind of wisdom it is, people from out of this country have always asked me, where did that man go? Of course, I did a lot of work to do for him, and then finally I found him. And he was gracious enough to sit behind the camera and share with us what God has been doing since he was here. And I'll be giving him a chance to greet us and to tell us what he has been able to do. Today, we are talking about balanced leadership. It is possible to lead, but then you lack the balance. Today, the man talking to us is helping us to know how we can balance it. Balance leadership. Keep writing, keep sharing, keep calling people. Tell them they are back again in Elevate TV, talking about leadership and the balance in leadership. My guest today is Pastor Zack Wangi. Pastor Zack Wangi is a pastor here in Nairobi, Karen. That is where the church is. The church is an amazing church called Arise Church. And together with his wife, they are doing a great job. And that is the man today. I am not preempting. I have to tell you, just in case he is humble enough and he feels like he may not want to say what he does. He is a pastor of a great church. Man of God, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
You are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I should let you know that the last time we did that show, that was BC, as they say, before COVID, you know. We were dealing with honor.
Yes,
then we
yes.
talk about forgiveness. And one person wrote to me from all the way from the US, and they wanted to know where you went. You know, I wish I remembered to say I have found it. And one thing that actually the person was quoting is the place of honor, how you remember that time and how you traveled out of this country to go look for someone, and they say, I wish to be, I mean, I have come to ask for forgiveness. That was amazing. Anyway, let me not go to that direction.
Yes.
Balanced leadership.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, once again, it's a joy to be on the show, Morning Digest, and thank you for having me once again. It's a joy and also good to hear the response from the audience on you know, how the show is impacting them. You're also doing a commendable job, and you have great ministers. You've been having very powerful men on your show. We thank God for this is a great platform that adds to the debate and the discussion on the subject of leadership.
Thank you.
Equally so today, a very interesting subject on balanced leadership. Yes, yes.
What comes to your mind when you hear balanced leadership?
Obviously, I think the key word that would strike someone's mind is the word balance. And I think balance is, let me quote a gentleman called Louis Edwin Cole. He is one of maybe the veterans that pioneered the ministry to the men. He's written so many books. He even runs a curriculum called Majoring in Men. It's called Edwin Louis Cole. He wrote a book and he said that balance is the key to life.
Balance is the key to life.
And as simplistic as that statement sounds, balance is the key for leadership. Balance is the key in life. And to the extent we are able to achieve balance is to the extent we can be able to make progress.
Wow.
I think the best illustration, I think many people would identify those who know how to ride a bicycle. The essence of maintaining balance is critical to movement. And the two are tied together.
Yeah.
One of the way to maintain balance in a when you ride a bicycle is to keep moving. You keep pedaling. Pedaling gives you a bit of balance.
Wow.
You understand? At the same time, you cannot be able to pedal a bicycle and make progress and move if you don't know how to balance. You remember, everyone, when you're trying to learn how to cycle a bicycle, you always end in one side.
Yeah.
So the same case applies with leadership. You may be wanting to go forward, but because you have not attained balance,
Wow.
you're always out of alignment. You're always so balance is very critical.
Wow.
It's very critical. It's for me, I believe it's a very fundamental subject that as aspiring leaders, as practicing leaders, we need to understand more and trying to dig deeper, because that will bring a lot of progress to our endeavors.
You know, there are people who argue that me, I'm a leader, you know. I'm a leader and I'm leading. And then when you look at them, you can tell they need help.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't tell someone, hey, come I help you. Sometimes people feel that they carry help more than they need it, you know. And that's why I thought you have been in leadership now for some time.
Yeah.
You have seen mistakes people make. You have seen, the imbalances that come in leadership. And that's why I thought, wait a minute. If I need somebody to help us balance, you are the man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So tell us now, where do we begin? Sometimes people don't know they're imbalanced. You know?
Exactly.
Sometimes people wonder, what are you talking about? I've been in this thing for a long time. What balance can't you see?
It's true. It's very true. In fact, to give another simple illustration, every so often when a car, vehicles go for two services. One of them is alignment,
Yeah.
and the other one is balance.
Wheel balancing, yes.
Yeah, wheel balancing. But the two are tied together.
Yeah.
If you do one, it cannot substitute for the other. So you cannot exchange balance for alignment. You cannot say I'm aligned, I'm in the will of God. But you're in the will of God, yes, you're aligned, but you're out of balance.
Wow.
There will still be some instability.
Most of the time we rule people out of order. But I've never had anybody ruled out of balance. That's amazing. That's
true,
amazing.
Very true. So I think when you talk about leadership and balance, just to stick to matters leadership, I think what you're looking at here is how you're able to strike a balance between different approaches of leadership, different contexts, different dynamics, being able to navigate that path and still achieve your goals and build a team. Because we cannot talk leadership without a team. You're leading someone.
Yeah.
That's very critical. So when we talk about balanced leadership here, I think I want to borrow an illustration from a gentleman called, I think it's called John Adair. He wrote a book called The Action Leadership, or action-based leadership. And he gave something very interesting. He gave a very simple illustration that will help us understand balance. He said, to strike a balance in leadership, you have to deal with three circles. The first circle is task. The other circle is team. So there's a circle for task, there's another circle for team, and then the last one is yourself. So anytime you put three circles on the same place, you want to draw them overlapping each other, they will intersect. There will be a space that will be connecting.
Yes.
So if you can hit that spot, that is balance or equilibrium. But the most interesting thing, in life we all live looking for that balance.
Where now the
three circles
the
intersect.
of the team.
There is a task you want to do, that is your goal, the vision. There is a team you're working with. Then there is yourself as a leader. So all those three circles intersect. But balance or equilibrium is when you're able to hit that intersection where all the three strike each other.
Wow.
The reality is that is a lifelong project. It's not an event, it's a process. One day you'll find yourself, you have gone too much to the task. You have forgotten the team. One day you'll discover you're so involved with the team. And by that I mean, because when you work with people, people are real. People are going through real issues in life. So in as much as they are part of your team, they're also handling their own dynamics. So your team, sometimes as a leader, you may first post the goals and the focus for the quarter, for the year, and say, let me first attend to the team. So you discover now the balance has shifted to team. At some time you may discover now we are lagging behind on our goals. So you may say no, I'm not gonna even focus on the team. You may push people to say we need to hit our targets. You discover now you are focusing on the task. You may discover at some time you're going through your own issues.
Yeah.
So you may shift to the circle of self. So that oscillation, that motions is probably the process of trying to seek balance. And I think that simple illustration helps us to understand in the matters of leadership, those are the three circles you'll juggle. You'll have to deal with yourself. And balance starts with you.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I think one of the biggest conversation has always been, how do you strike work and life balance? Even omitting the issues of leadership. Now bring the issue of leadership in the equation. It becomes even more complicated. So balance is critical in life. Whether it's a minister of the gospel, you're a pastor, whether it's your vocation, you're a teacher, you're a civil servant, you're a business person, especially business and ministry. Those two have a way of carrying you out of balance.
Yeah.
They can drag you out of, you forget you have other circles in the equation.
Yeah.
You just get...
You say in the work, business.
Yes, and ministry.
And ministry.
Exactly.
And of course,
business
and the family.
And of course, family comes in the equation now. That's the third circle.
Wow.
So trying to balance those circles, you may discover that you have neglected. And when you're out of balance, just when a car is out of balance or alignment, there will be some friction. There will be some pressure. And many times in life, when you go out of balance, you begin to build pressure. The next thing, you cannot handle pressure. You begin to build, it may develop to stress. Stress can go as far as you can imagine, to even levels of depression, or become psychological concerns. So balance is that critical. Balance is that critical. And I think for many ministers, because I believe, Elevate TV also is, many Christians follow Elevate TV as a Christian channel. Many Christians struggle, if we are just to narrow to two circles. How do you balance between ministry and family? I think that's the struggle of every church leader. It's a struggle of every church leader. And I think the critical thing is knowing what is my priority. But I think the reality is you must also appreciate seasons.
Yeah.
Because you're imagining if someone is pioneering a ministry, the demands on that ministry may outweigh other demands in that season.
Yeah, because I'm glad you have touched that. Because when people start talking about leading, then you have a ministry or business that the structure is you. There's no structure.
Yeah.
There are no helpers. You get what I mean?
You are the alpha
you are
and
the
the
usher. You are the offering counter. You are the giver of that offering. And all that.
Yeah.
Now, where do we begin? I'm glad you have talked about the season. Elaborate a bit about that season, because I think many people look at it like we are not achieving because they have not appreciated the season they are in. Yes, I think you can touch something on season.
I think the reality of life is that life is in seasons. And I think there are seasons that will put a lot of demands on you in a certain aspect. For example, as you say, if you are initiating a business, it's in the early stages, or you're pioneering a ministry, not very different administratively as well. In the early stages, you may not have all the hands you require. You may not have all the help you require. You may not have the team, as it were. You may not have all those people you feel you need for that. So you may find yourself wearing so many hats, juggling between so many roles in the business.
Yeah.
Maybe you are the accountant in that business, you are the marketing manager, you are the director,
you are the watchman.
You are the watchman at night. So basically you discover that you're wearing so many roles. I mean, you're wearing so many hats, and the reality is you must appreciate seasons. But what is critical for me is to have that bigger goal in mind. There has to be a focus to say, this is where we are now. For now, this is necessary. Appreciate that. Because if you don't appreciate, you may make the mistake people do. You bring people so quickly and try to share to relieve yourself of the responsibility. But in the process, you might end up sabotaging your own vision, because you might bring people, maybe you're overwhelmed. You may bring people so quickly and be quick to relieve so much responsibility to them. And in the process, they've not bought into the vision, they are not into alignment, their heart is not in it. So if you don't take time because you're under pressure or duress, you say, hey, I just need help. Whoever comes, you relieve your responsibility to them, because you don't understand seasons. You see, one of the most interesting, if I may make reference to the scriptures as well, there's a scripture that refers to the sons of Issachar. And in the book of Chronicles, and it says something interesting. It says that they understood the times and they knew what Israel should do.
Yeah.
So anytime you understand the seasons, you know what to do. But when you don't understand seasons, you will always make mistakes, because you make decisions you're not supposed to. You allow pressure, you allow other external factors to kind of force your decisions. So when you are starting up anything, any startup for that matter, anything in its early stages, just like a child, when I have toddlers in my house, and a toddler is so demanding. It's so demanding because they are so everything, they are so dependent on their caregiver, and it can stretch the caregiver. So the vision in its infancy stage, the business, the ministry, your career sometimes, if you're trying to build something in the infancy stage, it will be so dependent on you as the caregiver. And even today, mothers are not quick to relieve their responsibility of taking care of the children. They really want to be around in those early years to the best of their ability. They want to be around. Yes, they may have caregivers, but their presence is needed. The same thing applies with vision. The same thing applies with business, with ministry. Anything in the early infancy stages, you cannot delegate so fast in the name of this pressure. I need to create structures. In the name of I need to get the balance. I think one reality you have to accept is that in life you'll go out of balance. That's part of life.
Part of life.
That's part of life. Sometimes you will be out of balance.
Wow.
It's a reality.
Moses Okodi is writing to you saying, good morning, great topic, balanced leadership. And he says, balance is key to life. You know, life is in a season. Thank you so much, Moses. Allow me to just read a few comments here. And then we have Sarah Molongo says, a leader of a certain group has not been active for 2 years. She decided to call it quit when questioned and decided to appoint another one. She became so bitter, full of abuses towards me because I appointed a new person. How can I handle such?
I think with the little information we have, there may be a lot of factors, but I think talking about leadership, there's something called people skills. There's something called team dynamics. And I think one of the greatest plays, and I think maybe we should have begun there, one of the critical things that guides us in life, rather, has come to be coded as what we call emotional intelligence. And that means your ability first to manage yourself, manage your emotions, manage your, your being able to control yourself, being in charge to allow that you make sober decisions. I think with a little, of course, we may need more information to give advice in this context. But I would say for me, that has to do with issues of transitions.
Yeah.
How do you transition your leaders? How do you appoint one? Was there a good handover? Did you call the person and say, did you advise them this is the decision we are making? Was there some closure? Was there, I think that question touches a lot on transitions. How do you transition people? It also touches on change management. When you make some change, how do you initiate change? Was it rapid? Was it, did you carry people along?
And also, did you bother to know why this person is not coming?
Exactly.
Because somebody could be going through so much. You know, this one issue I've always remembered in leadership. A friend of mine who is a great leader was going for a certain meeting. And this one of the members comes and he says, please, give me a minute. He says, no, I'm rushing for a meeting. Please, 1 minute. He said, no, I can't. I'm already late. So this lady says, anyway, I just wanted to let you know that my father passed on this morning. Wow. And the man says, that's very good, very good. And he walked away. So later, the man got to, after the meeting, and I think 2 days later, he got to hear that the father to this person passed on. So he was so kind, look for that person and say, I'm sorry, I got to hear that your father passed on. When did this happen? He says, oh, man of God, the day I was telling you to give me a minute, you remember what I told you? No, I can't remember. I told you that my father has passed on, and you told me that's very good.
Oh, no.
So imagine if that person was not mature enough to look at that response differently. You can be sure that person would have lost a member. So I agree with you that we also need to get to know why someone is not coming, why they are not, in leadership, doing what you expect them to do. Could it be that they did not know what was expected of them? Could it be they were going through a difficult moment?
Very true.
So I'm just quoting that, saying that to, because of what you have said, we don't know facts,
Yeah.
And I hear you. So understand the season.
Yes. That's very critical, because that will help you be able to know that, accept some reality, that for one reason or another you might be off balance. You might go off balance because that season demands that. But I think there should be, there should be that intentionality to say, I'm working towards going back to the equilibrium. Remember those 3 circles.
Yes.
I'm still going back to that intersection of trying to create that balance. But it is a shifting target, I would say. You will find in your life, you'll have to keep struggling to come back and keep things in balance. So that's very critical. That's very important. Yes.
Wow. So understanding that season is very important.
Yes.
What else do you need to do now to keep this balance?
Okay. I think, as I said, looking at those 3 circles, one, and I touched on that when I was responding to that question, how you attain balance, first of all, is to understand yourself. It's called self-awareness, it's called self-mastery, it's called emotional intelligence. First, understand your limits, understand your triggers, what triggers you.
Yeah.
Understand what pushes you on the edge. Understand how you react to some context. If you can master yourself, I think there's even a scripture that says that he who can master himself, he can rule over a city. He's a if you can master yourself, I think it's the greatest achievement, if I would say. So the first step in achieving balance is that awareness. Get and understand yourself, your limits, your personality, understand your weaknesses, your strength, your limitations.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand yourself, situations will define you. If you don't understand yourself, when you are pushed on the edge, you will find yourself reacting to the situations and ignoring the real issues. You'll be caught up in the, sometimes in very trivial matters that are not very critical.
Yeah.
That self-awareness, knowing I cannot push myself beyond this limit. This is beyond my scope. This is how the last time this is how I reacted to the issue. I need to create some boundaries around this. I need to do so that reality is very important.
But now, sorry for
it's okay.
Going ahead of you. But how does someone tell that he am off balance? Because sometimes it takes another person. There are people who are still reading and they're like, what are you talking about imbalances here?
It's very true, because many times when you are driving, you cannot tell that you are veering off balance. It's someone who is behind you.
Yes.
That will look and say you're almost touching the yellow line, but you will be saying it is very well.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Many times I've been driving for the last 27 years.
In fact, many couples would admit when they are driving, it is the other partner that always tells them, I think you are too close to that side. I think so as you're saying, sometimes it takes someone else to point that out for you. But I think even as an individual, you can tell when you're off balance, because you begin to realize that you lose your momentum, you lose your stability, you begin to drop some balls, you begin to forget crucial meetings, you begin to you cannot beat your deadlines, you can realize you're struggling. You can realize there's an element of struggle. I said just like in normal context, when a car is out of balance, there will be a bit of friction. So one of the way to know that you're out of balance is friction. You discover that at church if it's a church context, you are always exchanging words with people. You are clamping down on everyone.
Somebody needs to hear this now. The rabbi is now meeting the road. You can tell you are off balance. Remember we said we quickly rule people out of order, but rarely do we rule people out of balance. Now, my guest is ruling some out of balance. And how do you know you are out of balance? Number one, when you start realizing pressure or friction with the people that you are leading. If you see that, you need to check whether you are still in balance.
Very true. That's very true. And when I talk about friction here, I mean in every aspect.
Yes.
You'll have friction in the workplace. You discover this friction in your family, in your marriage. You discover there's you are the common denominator. You're the common denominator. Everywhere you are, there's a bit of friction. And if you do some assessment, an honest assessment, you'll discover you are the trigger. There's the way you are instigating. Either because of how you make decisions, either because of how you communicate to people, either because of how you relate with people. So friction is the first indicator. You can tell, I think something is not just the same way a car will go out of alignment and start, the tire will have friction, start wearing out and all those things. Even in life, when there's imbalance, there's misalignment, friction becomes the first indicator.
Okay.
And if friction is not addressed, you deal with other issues. You have to buy a new tire very soon.
Wow. So one is friction.
Yes.
Is there any other indicator that somebody needs to watch out?
Of course you can. Sometimes there's what we call, I would call it inner peace. You see, when there's balance, there's an inner peace that you have. And one of the indicators another way you can be able to tell that you're out of balance, you lack that peace. You are always, everything is an afterthought. You don't think through what you're doing. You are reacting. Wow. You don't plan. You don't act. You are reacting. Everything is catching you off balance. Everything is you're catching. You're trying to, like to catch things falling every time.
Wow.
So that can be another sign that I think something is off.
Wow,
Something
that is
off.
very powerful. What we are going to do is take a very short break. I'm asking that you don't go very far. We're going to take a short break of 2 minutes, then just sip some water. Then after that, we'll be back and we'll continue. Keep calling people, keep sharing this. Let the people know that we are here talking about balanced leadership. In a moment, I will be back.
Are you ready for a divine encounter? Life Church International invites you to Open Heaven's Convocation, 3 days of power, worship and impartation, from Tuesday 15th to Thursday 18th April. Join Apostle David Duma and worship minister Sylvia Akoth at the Apostolic House, Kenya Cinema Plaza, Moi Avenue, Nairobi. Lunch hour sessions run from 12:45 to 2 p.m. and evening sessions from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And don't miss the special Good Friday service on April 18th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Our theme scripture is 1 John chapter 5 verse 4. This is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. Don't miss this moment. Open Heaven's Convocation, where heaven meets you. Are you seeking deeper understanding, spiritual growth, and a firm foundation in your walk with Christ?
Anyone who comes to the place of faith, believing Jesus Christ, they resurrect from the graves.
This is what we call doctrine.
Pillars of Faith, an educative and captivating forum to inspire your spiritual journey. With your host, Pastor Mark Mutinda, building lives on the unshakable truth of God's Word.
Wow, I told you 2 minutes, and exactly 2 minutes, here we are. We are talking about balanced leadership. My guest, Pastor Zack Wangi, is really helping us. Just concluded when he told us 2 areas where you can tell, two signs that you are not balanced. Friction, and then you start dropping balls. You discover, man, you are catching up with things. You are not on top of them. At that point, you just need to know you are losing that balance. And I want us to continue. Remember, as I told you, if you have a question, write. I'll be here reading. If there is anything you need to hear from my guest, I'm here to just read. And if there's a question, mine, as I've always said, is to amplify. Sarah says again, the leader was resistant to sit down. We talk. Remember that case. But instead, she say she is quitting out of ministry. I discovered that she had a conflict at home, but up to now, she is still not coming to church, but full of bitterness. She is unapproachable. How do I solve this? And I don't know. Okay. Then you answer that before we continue. And then I have Michael Moore that says to act or react will make the difference, as in how you react and how you act. You can tell whether you're in balance or out of it. Yes. That's a good one. So yes, so that we can continue, can help this person.
I think to Sarah, that's her name. Of course, I understand it's within the church context. Church
Yes.
has many dynamics. And what I would comment in this area, because there seems to be a strained relationship between the leader and this member or former leader. Sometimes that happens. It's not a very isolated case. Many people fall out of favor with the pastor or with the leadership for different reasons. Sometimes it's immaturity issues. Sometimes it's lack of conflict resolutions mechanism. There are all those factors that trigger. But in this case, what I would advise, maybe way forward in this case, I would say, since this member may be more of looking at the leader as part of the problem, so to say, or the aggrieved party seems to point towards the leadership. Sometimes you may want to use a third party, because so long as you appear there, you represent the hurt, the wound this person is going through, and trying to arbitrate in a case where you are, kind of involved in it, and the person sees you as part of the people that maybe didn't treat them fair. Sometimes we may want to introduce a third party and let someone else arbitrate the issue and handle it, and say, okay, maybe let's allow so to work with you and guide you. And so that may be more objective, because if two people meet who are not on the same page and both of them are in conflict, they are not in good terms, to try and assume you can solve an issue, it can't happen. There's a principle in leadership that says a problem cannot be solved at the level it was created.
Wow.
You cannot solve a problem at the level it was. So that's why in leadership you leave levels of arbitration. For example, if it's two departmental heads, always leave another level. They can appeal to the deacon, they can appeal to the elder, they can appeal to the pastor. Those levels of leadership are very important.
Yeah.
Because when there's conflict at this level, we may not solve this conflict between ourselves. So sometimes you may want to appeal to a higher force. That's why even in the court system, there's always an appeal. You don't appeal to the same court, the same level of the court that ruled not in favor.
Yeah.
You appeal to a higher authority. So in this case, I would suggest to Madam Sarah that if she can add a third party who is a higher authority to arbitrate, someone who has confidence and maybe would be more objective, that may give them some bit of go ahead and help them to deal with that matter.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And since we are responding based on what we are getting,
Yes.
I think that can be handled properly.
Yes.
So, Madam Sarah, I believe that you have been helped by this advice that has come to you, and I'm sure, and I believe if you can apply that, it is going to give some help somewhere. And it's part of life. You know, leadership has friction, things happen. When you lead people, have a big heart. Sometimes big enough to carry even those who are dormants, but they are inside, they are not talking, not doing anything, but they are there. One day, they'll start talking. Thank you so much. So let's continue.
Yes.
So put some balance now. Which are the areas now we should put balance?
Okay. I think we did start by the first one. We had touched it earlier, where we said one of the way to find balance is to first know yourself.
Yes, know yourself.
That. Yes, and also be able to understand yourself, your limits and all that. The second way I believe is very critical is to continuously develop yourself. Just like a bicycle maintains balance by moving, as a leader you must also be growing. If you're not growing, it's very difficult to maintain balance on a bike when you're not moving.
Yeah.
So many leaders, once they get the position, hey, finally, we have arrived at the corner office. Have been waiting for this promotion for many years.
Yeah.
I'm here. And so many people ignore the place of growth, self-development, investing in yourself. And I've come to learn in life, it's not basically going back to school, getting another degree, a master's degree. Sometimes it's attending a one-week seminar.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going for a one-day workshop. Sometimes it's attending a correspondence course. Sometimes it's going to a YouTube tutorial. There are so many platforms, especially in our modern context, for training and learning. So as a leader, if you want to maintain balance, you must continually invest in self and develop yourself. And that does not necessarily mean academic. Sometimes you need some bit of training, because we live in a world that's ever-changing and evolving. And you know, right now the whole talk is around AI, artificial intelligence. Something new always comes to the market.
Yeah.
And so as a leader, you must be at a place, if you want to maintain balance, you must continually be able to develop yourself, avail yourself for learning. And you can always learn even from the least. Sometimes we think I need to pay for a conference in South Africa or in America to... No, you may just attend a workshop around the city.
Yeah.
And those simple, or so to say, smaller platforms. You can go there and you learn something that is very, very instrumental. So the ability for you to keep, or rather that consciousness of I need to continually develop myself. What am I learning? Sometimes even learning comes through reading. You can continually be reading books. They say a leader is a reader. As you avail yourself, you interact with knowledge, you interact with other people, you're equipping yourself. What are you doing? You are peddling.
Okay.
But the moment you sit in that corner office and you hold your pedals, you say, we have arrived.
You fall.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah. Well, I love the analogy of cycling, just like even in swimming, if you just drop yourself there and you do nothing, you start sinking. So every leader must be doing something.
Exactly. Keep pedaling.
Keep pedaling.
Yes.
Don't stay there.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very critical.
That's very critical.
Very important.
I really appreciate and it's a blessing to hear that, because again, ministries die when your leaders stop doing anything.
Yes.
And I think it's somebody who wrote, I can't remember exactly the book, but was talking about the life that you give to an organization when there is something happening. And he explained that even if there is nothing happening in your organization, just paint the rooms. Just painting alone tells people there's life here. And he says just that small change gives people energy.
Exactly.
People feel like, wow, something is happening.
True.
Yeah. So
yes.
we have a balance. We keep moving. What else?
Yeah, we build a balance. I think maybe what would be also of interest, we may want to look at from a leader's perspective. I think it's good to understand what brings this imbalance. What are the areas where, because you cannot try to treat a problem, you don't know how it's coming. What creates the imbalance? And I would look at maybe a few of them. One of them is the aspect of how you balance between your goals. Remember those three circles. You say there's a team, there's a task, and there's yourself. So one of the areas that triggers imbalance is how do you balance between the task, your vision, and the realities. For example, just a few years ago, we are calling it BC now. Many people had goals for 2020 and plans, but a new phenomenon came in the picture that was not in the strategic vision. You can imagine, organizations that had said in the next 5 years, this is our strategic vision, this is where we are going, but not factoring that there will be a COVID when life will stand still.
Yeah.
So if you do not accept if you don't adapt to the, or become flexible and be pragmatic, if you are rigid and stick to the goals, we must do this. I recall a few years ago, one time I was working in South Sudan as a team leader or a program officer with one of the NGOs in South Sudan. And we used to meet in Nairobi. We used to come for meetings. Nairobi was the base and the headquarters before we were deployed on the ground. And when we meet on the ground, we would come with a good strategic vision. We were building, we had having some building projects. Some of them were classrooms. Some of them were, trying to build infrastructure on the ground. South Sudan by then, about 10 years ago, was really challenged. I'm not sure how the dynamic is at the moment. But what I realized is that what you plan and what you find on the ground are two different things. We could sit in Nairobi and say
what you ordered online and what you got.
What you order, especially from China,
yes,
and what arrives may be different. On a light note there, but so setting a goal may be in a comfort of a hotel in Mombasa or Naivasha, saying by this year we are hitting these strategic goals. But the moment you land on the ground, there are unforeseen factors. For example, what would happen in the context of South Sudan, being a very unstable country, it was very volatile. Sometimes there would be insecurity and you would have to evacuate the teams. Your goals now would no longer be a priority. You cannot be a rigid leader who says, we are not evacuating. Let's survive here until the fighting is done. We will continue building. You understand what I'm saying? So there are factors that will come. So part of you being a leader, knowing that I need to balance between the goals I want to achieve and also being practical. I may have goals and may say, I don't think this is going to work. You must make that call as a leader and say, I don't think we'll achieve our goals. But if you are rigid, you say, this must happen this year. Maybe the budget did not come. You had a project you wanted to do. The donors have withdrawn. There's now a very real issue many NGOs are dealing with at the moment. The withdrawal of funds by the United States or USAID, which was a major funder of many organizations. So you can imagine organizations that had goals for this year had said we will hit these targets. Then half of your budget is withdrawn. If you still put pressure on your team to say we must hit the targets, lack of pragmatism, that lack of adaptability can create a lot of imbalance in your team.
So in other ones, that's where you brought in flexibility.
Exactly.
If it means laying off, downsizing what you need to achieve.
Or even taking
or
a
even
break.
calling it off.
Yeah, and saying, let's try this next year.
Wow.
It can't be done this year. So that balance between, I want to achieve my goals, there are some realities. That balance, if you insist on one and ignore the other, you find yourself off balance.
I know you have started 2 churches now. So 2 or 3? 3 actually.
It's 2.
2.
Yes.
2.
One survived, one.
One you are trying
One
to
succumbed.
I still remember trying to resuscitate what God has killed.
Yes.
You know, what is the, based on what we are talking about now? What realities did you find on the ground that from outside you could not see those realities?
I think sometimes we are driven by raw passion. I want to do this. I want to hit this. I want to launch the ministry. I'm free. Why not? Why not? I'm young. I've got the energy. I'm a good person. I want to launch this business. I want to launch this ministry. But then you discover, one, maybe it's not the right season. You're trying to force something that maybe this is not the right season. You see, when it's the right season, there's a way God aligns things for you. So if you're forcing things, you're doing it in the wrong season. You're probably doing it in the wrong place. A lot of things are not in place. And you'll find yourself literally trying to force things that cannot work. And you'll end up frustrating yourself. You'll end up getting discouraged. And hopefully you don't arrive where Elijah arrived, under that terebinth tree. I don't know what was the name of that tree. That
Where he wanted to go.
He was telling God, take me. He fell short of hanging himself because he thought his theology could not allow him. He might miss heaven. So he thought, let God do the killing.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to say, in my case, I've come to see, anytime, one of the things that will throw you off balance is when you try things in the wrong season. When you miss timing, when you miss seasons, it will not work. No matter how much, you may even have the resources, but it's the wrong season. God knows why he says, in the right time, I'll make everything beautiful. There's the issues. So for me, I would say, timing is very critical. You don't jump. You don't, because in my case, you leave one ministry, you jump to the next. Sometimes God may tell you, wait. Doing nothing, just wait. But because you're, as a leader, you have no time to balance that. That church must be launched this year.
You are seeing the task.
Yes, the church must start this year.
Yes.
We have a venue, why not? We have the money. We have paid rent for 6 months. Why not?
That's not enough.
God may say just use the place as a prayer room for now. Because maybe there are people God is preparing. Maybe there's a wave God there's something God is trying to prevent you from.
Yeah.
But it's like, the best illustration would be, a plane is at the mercy of the air traffic controller. Where the pilot stands, the pilot does not have a panoramic view of the airspace. They don't see everything. The air traffic controller, on their screen, on their radar, they can see all the planes. They can see which plane is flying at what altitude, which one is flying at this altitude. So when the air traffic controller tells the pilot, maintain this altitude, he knows why he's saying it, because he knows if you go below that, there's another plane, you'll find it there.
Yes.
If he says, wait, no, you're not yet cleared for takeoff. You're not yet cleared for landing. So many of us ignore the air traffic controller, because I have graduated from
what are you telling the
flying.
pilot?
I'm a certified pilot. Why should I listen to someone in a booth?
Has he ever
flown a plane? But planes are at the mercy of the air traffic controller.
Wow.
The same thing applies in life. Your vision is at the mercy of God as the air traffic controller. So when God tells you wait, he knows there's a storm about to hit. He knows there's a plane about to land and you want to take off. And if you are driving a small Embraer and it's a Dreamliner, you can imagine the disaster. So I think in life, there's that aspect of understanding seasons. Otherwise, you will go off balance, trying to force things to happen in the wrong season. Balance is critical in the aspect of seasons. See, you can't detach balance and seasons. mastering the season and understanding your season is very important.
Allow me to just read a few comments. We have Zua Cool says, I love that bicycle analogy to keep moving forward, balancing, and the idea that in life I will put out of balance sometimes, you know. I think it's saying getting to know that in life you find yourself when you are off balance. And then we have Salah says, thank you. I think the advice was really good. And then Moses Okot says, growth or self-development, transitions, and learning. You know, he's mentioning some of the things he's getting. And then he says, this show is teaching me a lot and I should become flexible. That's really powerful. There's somebody saying, that's what I'm getting, you know.
Yes.
That's my take home. Yes.
Yes. I think moving on other aspects, a leader needs to be careful and maintain balance. It's also the issue of decisiveness and inclusiveness. There are decisions you'll make in politics, they call them executive orders.
Yes.
There are decisions you'll make, unilateral decisions, individual decisions, because...
Yeah, the executive orders decisions, and they are political decisions. Yeah, I think Africa, executive is smaller, political is wider.
Yeah,
remember when the former deputy president was being impeached, and there was all the argument: is it illegal? It should, if there anything needed to bring him a man down and all that.
Yeah.
And then it boiled up to one thing. Political decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what is critical here, even in the context of a team, if you don't handle the issue of decisions and inclusiveness, you might lose your team or throw them off balance. And this is how it happens. There are decisions you may have to make as a leader, but there are decisions you need a buy-in from the team. You need to include them. Let them feel they participated. Let them feel they were part of the discourse. Otherwise, if they just appear one day and they discover that decision was done, it could affect maybe their personal terms. It could affect some privileges they were receiving. Then they appear in the office, they hear, no, there's a memo. You don't even, they just read a memo or see an email. Please note starting from this day. So you see, some decisions you need a buy-in. So in leadership, you need to know, when do I involve the team? What are the critical decisions from where I stand I can make and be ready for the impact, because I need to save the organization. For example, a leader may need to decide to lay off a few people. Sometimes it boils down to you save the organization or you play to the gallery trying to look good. Sometimes to save the boat. I don't want to use the Jonah style, you throw the luggage. But sometimes to save the bigger picture, you may have to make some tough decisions. You may look at COVID again. During COVID, people had to make a decision. We can no longer afford this rent as an office. Let's all close, let's terminate contracts, let's pay the penalties, let's work from home. So someone had to make that call. Otherwise, if people continued incurring expenses without any income, so to say, you run yourself in the red. You go under. So there are decisions you would call team to involve them, but a decision like that one, that means saving the team. As a leader, that's why you're there. The price of leadership is responsibility. You take responsibility and say, I make this decision and I take responsibility. Wow. I know in Africa it's a different discussion.
Yeah, in Africa
taking responsibility means a lot of other things, but in leadership,
responsibility in Africa is the same as taking the bullet. Biting the bullet.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. So I think that's important. How you make decisions between when do I involve the team and when do I make decisions, unilateral decisions.
You know, man of God, as I've always said, one of the reasons why I love bringing leaders who are leading is because some things that happen, they happen in the context of our surrounding.
Yes.
And we find ourselves in these things and sometimes talking about them. This week, or say last week, we had a case of Butere girls.
Oh, well, yeah.
And these girls were prepared for a show, and then fireworks, I mean, what do we call it? A tear gas, all of a sudden. As a leader, you have to to tell us, what do you think about this situation? What is your point? Because we need to bring balance.
I see where you're coming from, but
yeah,
I know, but
because the balance is needed.
Yes, yes. As you say, that's again, the political world can be very interesting because they say politics is local, they say politics is contextual, politics has so many dynamics, and sometimes politics does not apply all the rules of leadership. But, you know, people play by their own rules, whatever that may be. Of course, there will be a lot of, it's a hot topic in the country at the moment, and of course everyone has his own position. And I think for me the issue of, I think some things boil down to what's the bigger picture, and you weigh down on do you want to, what our good professor says, the PLO, he says, do you respond to mosquito bites with a hammer? With a hammer. So sometimes you ask yourself, are you giving preeminence to this issue more? What if I allowed that play to continue? Would it be a hot issue as it is? People would have discussed and moved on. So again, I don't want to really commentate much on that. Maybe there are a lot of factors. There's a lot of vested interest.
You have to give balance. I mean, people are looking up on you and they're like, man of God, can you give us a balance in this? The government is involved, the opposition is involved, children are involved, teachers are involved, parents are involved, you know? And here, balance is needed.
Exactly, exactly. I think at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, you don't want to make, I think for me the critical people here is the girls, the children's experience, because there are things that live in people's memory. Young people at the age of a very formative age, that's a very formative age, that teenage season. And I think the way you deal with such issues, regardless of the other political players at play, in the interest, for me I would say prioritize the interest of the children.
Yeah.
What is in the best interest of the children?
Because
politics, go and play it with your other mature people somewhere else. But for me, I would say, what is the place of the children? I know they're not children per se, but the young girls in this case.
They're children. When they're school children, they're children.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, I would, if it was me, I would prioritize the interest of the young girls. Yes.
You know, the reason I'm saying this is because I've discovered that I mean, as we talk about balance, we have to look at some of those things that affect us. Because if you found a poem or a chorus being done about your leadership, and it is not very praising, you know, what balance do you strike?
I think one of the things people need to know, the price of leadership is that one of the prices you pay for being a leader is that you are in the limelight. And people will critique you, whether they understand, whether they have information or not. People will talk about you for breakfast, continue at lunch, and finish with you at supper. If you are a leader, you must be ready to pay that price. You will be talked about, you will be discussed, whether people have facts or not. So you must be willing to be critiqued. You must be willing to pay the price of critique. Whether positive, whether negative, once you are in the leader, you are in the limelight. And that's a fact. You cannot run away from it. So you cannot react to every critique. Otherwise, you become distracted. They say you don't respond to every barking dog in the street. If you want to go where you're going, you'll waste your time. You must ask yourself, what is my goal? What's my bigger focus? And I think talking matters art, because the discussion now touches on the art and the performance. Art has a way of critiquing the society. We must allow that space to continue. We cannot clamp down on expressions of art. I don't think in any way, you know, that would be a safer way to go as a country and as a nation. We should allow expressions of art to continue. At the same time, for me also, there has to be that understanding that as a leader, I'll pay the price. Even in your own family as a father, children will have meeting about you.
Oh yeah.
They'll say this decision that made, and you're leading 5 people. And there will be politics there, because once people meet, where there's people, there's politics. So I would say for me, leadership on the limelight, you will be critiqued. And one of the price of leadership is critics. Whether it's fair or unfair, that's another matter. But you must be willing and ready to be critiqued.
Wow.
Yes.
You must be willing.
And ready.
And ready. You know, a clip popped up just as these things are going on of these 2 young men in Kenyatta University, who are performing before the former president. And then in the play, they talk about how jobless they are. And then they tell the president, Mr. President, and here I am performing for you at the State House for free. Jobless, you know? And you could see the president taking it as, you know, and I think as a leader, you need to accept that you are not a leader because you did it well.
Yeah.
Sometimes even doing it wrong way. That, you know, whatever that is being seen as wrong may be celebrated one time.
Exactly.
Maybe celebrated one time. You see how we are celebrating Kibaki today. And remember there's a time we were almost going on the street because of taxes that were not in the level we are in today. And maybe even now we are going to sit back and celebrate some of the things we criticize.
Yes.
Wow. Tell us something about balance. Welcome us to your church. And we come to the end of the show. 1 hour is very short.
Thank you so much for having me. I think a quick one. I think a takeaway is where we started. I think the takeaway for me will still be balance is key to life. To the extent you hit balanced, to the extent you can do life. Once again, it's been a pleasure being on this show, the Morning Digest on Elevate TV. My name is Pastor Zack Wangi. I'm a lead pastor at a Rise Church in Karen, along Dagoretti Road, not far from the hub. If you know those areas. So karibu sana on our services every Sunday at 10. I would love to host you. If you're in the environs of Dagoretti, Karen, Gong, Kalangata, Kikuyu, all those areas, you're most welcome to fellowship with us. Asante, thank you for having me. I
confirm it's a very nice place. It's a good church. Please visit him there and enjoy warmth of fellowship and you know, ministry, worship. It's a great place to be. And I want to say you're doing a good job, man of God.
Thank you, sir.
Well, something new. Just coming here at Elevation Bookshop, you find a very new book. It is called The Unspoken Crisis. Come, get a copy. You'll thank me tomorrow. Believe you me, it's a blessing. And I want to say it is always a blessing, again, to step by this camera and talk about leadership. We shall be meeting again next week on Tuesday. And from my side, Apostle Patrick Muriithi, I want to say, if you can't see me between now and Tuesday, remember I am at GCC Kayole. That is where I minister. And it will be a blessing to see you in Kayole. Can something good come out of Kayole? Something very powerful is happening there. Come, let us worship the Lord together. Shalom.
Elevate your brand with Elevate TV, a premier media station in the country.